Hi, everybody. It's David Silverstein from sellingtothecio.com. Good to be back with you. It's been a little while. Hope everybody's doing safe. I got a special guest with me today. Jesse, how are you?
I'm doing well, David. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's great to have you. You're my second salesperson I've had on since we started this, and it's great to get the perspective of a sales rep, you these days, based on the circumstances that we're in this COVID selling world. So I know you've had a lot of success. You're kicking butt over there at Cloudian,
Yeah,
and love to hear how you're doing it and share it with the audience. And so if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, a little bit of your background, and we'll get into it.
sure. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me on. It was good to see the first one you did with Ethan. He's a good guy. So and one
Yeah.
of our good partners. So good to follow up with that. I've been with Cloudy now for 2.5 years. I'm the regional sales manager for the tri-state, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York. Prior to that, I was with Spectre Logic for short run, 15 years.
Mhm. That's awesome.
So I started as a rep in New York City, and then continued to grow as a manager. And then I was the VP of sales for the eastern half of the United States and Canada. But
Wow.
and prior to that, I was with EMC for 3 years, and GE for 3 years prior to that. So that's been my professional experience. I'm not a real job hopper, man. I don't like to
I
move.
see that. It's awesome. And you're a Drexel boy, so that's
I
that's
am.
that's awesome.
Don't hold that against me for being from Temple.
No, 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 no. That's all. I'm good with Drexel.
All right, cool.
Just not Villanova. It's okay.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah. So listen, you're coming right out of that hardcore selling patch, that Northeast New York, Jersey, Philly, right? So you're used to getting beat up. So I'm sure,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially in these times, man. Let's get into it a little bit. I love to
Sure.
hear. I love working with you. You've got so much energy. You're a pleasure to deal with, as being a partner for E Plus as well. Yeah, let's just tell us how it's been for you this last year, and what's made you successful. What's working for you? I'm sure the folks on the line want to hear
Well,
about it.
I mean, I much feel probably like any salesperson. I love to be in front of people, right? And that's
Yeah,
probably the hardest thing to adjust to with COVID. It's hard. You try. I love the video aspect of it, so I always try to turn my camera on.
yeah,
Um, but it's been hard with the net new and prospecting specifically because I think you do a much better job relating to people when you're in person. And that's really, I think, probably so it stinks. It stinks not being in front of customers. It stinks not being in front of partners. It stinks not being in front of resellers like yourself. Because we're all, have a common goal. Right? You want to work with people that you trust and enjoy doing business with, and that's certainly you and your team are people like that. Um, I use a lot of references now, a lot of networking, because I think that's probably the easiest way to get into the door for those net new opportunities.
yeah.
But I know that you expressed that in your book that I have here next to me. Um,
You're
a
a good man.
little advertisement.
Thank you, thank you.
Sure, sure. Um, but my approach is I really try to help customers solve their business problems with my technology. And you try to be human. You try to relate, right, and get in the door that way, right? Talk sports. Everyone in the Northeast always
That's
talks
true.
sports, right?
That's true.
Passionate about their fan base. You got to be, and I'm always pretty honest with who I. No, I'm definitely honest with who I root for. I'm a Philly sports fan that always doesn't relate well in New York.
Not New York.
Behind the sports does, right?
Yeah,
And talk COVID, talk about your experiences. Me and my family went through a rough bout dealing with it over the holidays. And I think once you sort of do go through it, people want to talk more about it or their experiences with it, right? So I think if you speak directly and speak specifically, um, and it's all right. Listen, I am not the most technical person. I think anyone around me would know that. And it's all right to say you don't know, but it's all about the timing and the action of your follow up, right? If you that begins to show trust, and I think that's the most important thing is to establish that trust.
yeah. I tell the reps on my team, listen, you got one chance to make a first impression, right? It's like Head and Shoulders.
Hmm.
You so much competition out there. If you do get that door open, you got to just pounce and respond as fast as humanly possible, right? You got to be
Yes.
very in front of them, right? And you listen, you're like me, and you remind me of myself a little bit. You're a relationship guy, right? You got to
Yep.
find that angle versus just trying to sell these folks something, right? And I was going to ask
100%.
you, right? You got to know when to walk away, right? You're going to talk to some folks where your solution at this point in your career is not going to necessarily work for them. So you got to know when to say, you know what, I'm going to be somewhere else, maybe down the line that it might work, but for now it doesn't, right? So I imagine you do a
Sure.
lot of that.
100%. Yeah, there's definitely a fit for, when I was at Spectralogic, and there's definitely a fit now that I'm at Cloudian. And I think that as long as you're honest, all right, honest to almost a fault,
Yeah.
potential customers can appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, I struggle with some, I'm the same as you. I like to wear my heart on my sleeve, and I think
Yep.
people in general appreciate that, right? You open up about your COVID story that you said your family dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about the sports. It's you're especially now the personality really has to shine through. It's tough, right? So I find that the reps who are just more kind of introverted at this point, they're it's interesting. They're struggling a little bit more because they don't like to get on video, and I make it mandatory at this point, right? You have to
Sure.
get on video. Take a shower in the morning. Don't put the baseball cap on, and if you don't have any appointments, that's fine. But if you're talking to customers, sure, just present yourself as professional. Sometimes I like even putting on a suit just to feel like it once in a while. So
Right.
it's different times for sure. So
It is, and it's more than, I think the most successful reps, it's more than a job. I'm very passionate. Passionate about the solution I represent. I'm passionate about being successful. I'm passionate about helping customers. So I think almost to a point of being emotional sometimes about it, right? I mean, you don't want to get too high or too low, right? I think that's key. But I think anyone can feel that energy and excitement you have about what you're doing, right? And I think that transcends.
I think the passion piece is important, right? You want to, listen, we all lost a lot in our lives, right? Every no is closer to a yes, as I say. And
Sure.
If you got to make these customers, they you lose, but I think you make them feel not bad necessarily. But hey, this really meant a lot to me. I appreciate your feedback, your candidness. Always have those debriefs of why you lost potentially, so you
Of
can
course.
be better the next time around. But I think the passion piece, for you, listen, I respect you a lot because you have that passion. You have that likability, which is just so important, and it's hard to find these days, honestly. So I think that's why you've had a lot of success in your career. So
Well, I think you learn more from probably bad bosses, right? Or you learn more from your losses, right? Like you said, and that makes you better, and that makes you hungrier. You're right. Um, and you want to improve on a daily basis, right? I'm always trying to improve my pitch, especially probably from a technical perspective.
yeah,
But you definitely want to relate on some type of personal level, and help the customer. I talking about sales process. I sometimes start at the end and say, when do you need this implemented? When do you need this installed? Once you do the initial selling,
yeah.
and then you're working on an opportunity. But then if you reverse it, right? Start from the end. You get buy-in from the customer. You two then work together on a timeline for when they want to achieve their objectives. And that's been helpful for me in my sales career.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that approach. You talked a little bit in the beginning about getting the at bats, right? That's what we are all struggling with at this point.
Sure.
And you talked about references. Can you expound a little bit more about like what you're doing these days to get meetings? Are you doing is it events that your company's putting together? What's working for you?
Initially with COVID, I think everyone is sort of pivoted is the word, right?
Yeah.
Towards virtual events, and you do see there are a lot of people who enjoy their alcohol out there. So a bourbon tasting.
Yeah.
When we made margaritas,
Yeah.
what did we do? We had a pumpkin carving event that was
Yep.
really successful. We got the kids involved, which sort of added a personal touch, and I thought that was pretty unique. But definitely the networking aspect of it for sure. Working with your reps, working with partners like Rubric or Beam, Cobalt, right, to discuss because I think if you can come to customers with a solution, and Cloudian in itself is our number one use case is backup and archive. and we're that repository really. So I need some data mover to get that to us. So working with partners from that aspect is important. And
I think I was going to say, I think the
sorry.
three-legged stool approach is real important these days, right? So if you're able to go at a customer with, hey, here's a bundle of products potentially or solutions that make sense that I think can help solve a business, give a business outcome for you. I think you're apt to get a more, compelling ear sometimes. So it sounds
100%.
like you're pretty good at that.
And listen, it's a relatively small industry, right? And I've worked for smaller companies, the last two anyway, with SpectraLogic and Cloudian. So my reputation is really everything, right? I consider that, not to be pompous, I am Cloudian in the tri-state, right? So if I'm not a man of my word, if I don't do what I say, we're gonna have a problem, and no one wants that. And I think I've developed a good reputation over the past 20 years, not to date myself.
Yeah, no doubt. Like you said, this Northeast patch is a small world. You can, like we all say, right? It takes 2 years to get a customer and 5 minutes to lose one, right? So
Absolutely.
you just got to continue to be honest and do the right thing. And this is a marathon. I tell the younger folks, listen, this is a marathon. You're not going to be at that first company forever. So don't burn any bridges. And just stay the course, because you'll be somewhere where you're going to be able to add some value to these folks. And the people that you're selling to now and early in your career are going to become the VPs and the directors and the CIOs. So just keep those
1000%.
relationships, even if you're not selling anything. Keep the relationship going, because if you're going to stay in this industry, you need that long-term, you need that longevity with these relationships that you have. And I think you've done a really good job of that.
Well, thank you. It's been, I sort of took a turn in coming from SpectraLogic, where I was the VP of the East, right? So I was on a plane more than I was in a car.
Yeah.
And, having kids, I have a soon to be 14, 13 and 10-year-old, and I was traveling too much. And I decided to take a step back in I don't know if it's a step back, just a different approach in my career and do things more locally. And when the opportunity presented itself with Cloudian, it made a lot of sense.
Listen, sales is the best job in the world, especially if you're able to, you can probably see your kids whenever you want. If you're doing your job and you're successful, you can go to every event they're in, right? And
100%.
Absolutely, especially now with the times that we're in. But
yeah, exactly.
I was going to say we're at the 12-minute marker. So what advice would you give to some of the younger folks out there just trying to make it in sales? What's some of the good lessons learned do you have?
Good question. Be yourself, right? Don't be fake, because people smell.
Unless you're a jerk off, don't be yourself.
Well, and then you're in trouble anyway, right?
Right. Yeah.
Getting those initial first wins and always being able to talk about reference selling and storytelling is I think really good salespeople are the best storytellers out there. I was with somebody at lunch, and you'll recognize the story immediately, with my SE, and my SE was jabbing on and on and on. And the guy I was sitting across from the table said, hey pal, 2 ears, 1 mouth.
I bet you I do know who that is. He might have been on this show, actually. He might have been on one of this podcasts.
But I knew that was the first time I met you, and I knew instantly that I was going to enjoy working with you.
No, it's true. It's and that's how customers feel, right? Just listen, right? You got to tell, right? You're so anxious, you get that appointment the customer will do all the talking for you, right? If you're able to navigate the story the right way, and like you said, roll some stories in there. Nobody just wants to be PowerPointed to death and pitched to death. That will come when necessary, but I think that's sound, and I always say just hang in there. It's a long haul, and find a company that will deal with that, right? Because if you're just under constant pressure to sell, you don't want to be there.
Correct. Very important. I think I've been lucky in my sales career where I found companies that it's a family environment. They trust their people. They hire good people, and take care of them. Because that builds the relationships.
So we're coming up against it. About 20 seconds left. Jesse, I really appreciate your time. I have like I said before, a lot of respect for you. You're awesome. You're great to work with, and I wish you continued success. Someday I'd love to get you on my team. So I'm always bothering you, but it's great to be a partner with you in the meantime. And I'm glad you're well and COVID's past you, and all good, brother. Thanks again. I appreciate everything.
David, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. Look forward to continued success between the both of us.
You got it.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.